Hello, y'all, and welcome to the Jackass Podcast. This is Coach Lindsay. It has been a minute. Probably been like 2 months since I've done a podcast. I have been out for medical reasons, and kind of in that time decided I was going to start doing something a little different. So this is the Jackass Podcast. This particular podcast is going to be straight about government, life stuff, and education, which is one of the things that I have done a lot of. And but this is the first podcast I've had in like 2 months. School's ended. I was actually in the hospital for 2 weeks. I've been off my feet for like six. I couldn't really sit down to do this. So we'll go through that. So a couple weeks, like a couple weeks before school ended, my foot swelled up. Now, I will preface this, I am diabetic. I have some health issues. I'm a big old boy and don't and haven't taken care of myself the best of times. But this case, my foot swelled up after I'd walked from in the school that I work at to what's it called? Outside of the school I work at to my classroom, and my foot just swelled up. I went to hospital a couple times. She left. She had work. That's really odd. Um, And so I spent like 4 weeks off my foot at home. It went from just being a swollen foot to swollen foot because I went to the hospital like 4 different times to gout. And then it went to an infection in my foot. And and then they cleaned out my foot twice. Just now starting to get to where I can put pressure on my foot. So it has been a rough few weeks. For those of you, if you listen to this and you know me from Jones Middle School, I will not be there next year. I am going out to a high school by choice. I wasn't fired. I decided to leave because I wanted the challenge of coaching like high school football and stuff. So that's made this interesting starting point because I was gonna go like I normally do with stuff like this and go all heads out with what's it called? Like full bore. We're doing the training camp and stuff, and this has just rocked me on it. So that's kind of the update. It's a vague update, like with a lot of things that I talk about. It's a lot of vague stuff I say when it comes to like what I do. But yeah, it's been a rough few weeks, so that's why the podcast has been out. I haven't been on TikTok that much. I just been having fun, but I hadn't really been having fun. I'm finally feeling better, so I brought up my podcast. Now, here's how the podcast is going to change. The Jackass podcast, the original one, this one, is going to go more into government and education stuff and maybe some entertainment stuff, but that's just when I want to see some or I really want to talk about it. And I'm gonna start two other podcasts. I'm gonna do one that's straight wrestling. It'll be the Jackass Wrestling podcast, and then I'm gonna have a sports/fantasy one. Hopefully with a friend of mine. We're gonna see how that goes. I would like to do it with somebody else, but in my friend group, like the reason I'll do a wrestling one and this one is just because some of my friends don't like talking politics. That's why I'm really big on the education side of it, and I get it. So, but with that being said, I'm happy to be back. We're starting anew with this, so let's get started. Now, in the time I've been gone, the only thing I've heard federal wise is really surrounding the Iran war. I know the Supreme Court just came down on the trans athlete issue. If you don't know, I'm a kinesiology major. I believe in science. I believe you're kind of put on this earth as you are, but I'm not be so harsh. I've met plenty of cool people who could be trans, or I've met plenty of cool people who are all sorts of things. So I'm not gonna sit here and just be dogged and be like, nah, you can't be like I don't care so much. Here's why I care about the trans issue. the two. One, an athletic competition, especially when you are a biological male going against females, and you get past the age and you get in the middle school age where puberty's happen, the body changes, and that's when boys generally become stronger than girls, and that gap just widens exponentially. There's sometimes a couple reasons for that, but the physical reason is just the way the body's built. So I don't get when everybody's like, well, you gotta, well, it's fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I'm a 340-pound man. I don't look strong or I don't look like the muscular athlete. I'm a big boy who moves stuff and I have a lot of strength. If I run into somebody on a two-step thing, they're gonna move back unless there's someone as big as me or they're mentally like their athletic preparedness is there. I always tell my kids don't stand behind me because I don't look before I turn around. And I might be throwing a bow just out of habit. And not like vicious, but just like when I go a certain way, I'll push back. I'll push my elbow back. I move people just by walking. It's been one of the advantages of me being my size when I've been in the like units I've been in and being someone that has done all the restraint training I've done over the past 13 years of my life. But if you tell me at 340 pounds and you put me against a woman the same exact size, unless she is well defined and muscular, there it's not even like I'm gonna have to work to do it. She's not gonna have the muscle mass when we're at our full best for me to do stuff. So that's been my thing. It's just not physically, there's a disadvantage there for women. And there's plenty of women athletes who will tell you this, who don't have blinders on. The second part of what I don't like about this issue is coming up and people talking about how, and it may have happened, and there's probably a small percentage where it's been talked about in early education settings. Here's the thing. I have had a couple kids over the past, I don't know, 5 years and generally it's girls right now in middle school. It's been girls who dress and uh, who dress and go by male names, and I'll give them that respect. You say you want that's what you want to be called. I'm fine with that. I don't really care as long as it's not making a scene and we're not getting into the political discussion of it, and we're fine. Because here's one of the things that I believe in, and we're gonna get into this in a little bit when we do the broad spectrum of talking about education, is my job as an educator to give you facts. And if I'm going to give you my viewpoint, I should give you the anecdote that goes with that viewpoint. But my job is not to be your moral compass fully. You're not my children. That's my job as dad to my children. That's not my job as teacher to your kids. So, and again, here's my general thing. What you do in your private life, what you do with your boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't care. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. That's your business. Keep what's in your bedroom in your bedroom. And this goes for anybody. I don't care. If you into really, really freaky stuff, I don't care. If you were trans, you're gay, I don't give a shit. I care if you treat me right, good person, we're both respectful. Past that, fuck, I really don't care. How you treat me is what I'm gonna worry about. How you treat people around me is what I'm gonna worry about. I'm not gonna worry about what you do on your own personal time because that's your matter. And I'm not gonna judge you for it because it's not my job to judge you. And that's one of those things that I don't think a lot of people get is I don't believe it's my job to judge you. My job as a human is to accept you. And if I can have a positive or if I have a positive or negative effect on you because of whatever our interaction is, that's fine. Because sometimes I'm not going to be the nicest guy. There's a reason this is called the Jackass Podcast because I am that way. So, but I say all this to say that I'm not going to judge you for what your choices are. I may not understand them. I may not be truly empathetic or sympathetic to them because it's not something that crosses my mind. But I'm not going to care. unless it becomes a problem in our interaction. So that's what I had to say about that issue. I agree with what the Supreme Court says. Title IX is there to protect women and give them opportunities in sports. NCAA and all these liberal things who made this such a big deal. It's one of the stupidest things in the world to begin with. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. There's a part of me that doesn't believe that males wouldn't do something to say that I want to be a female just so they can feed their ego to win a competition. There's no way that I can't believe that that's a possibility. So that's my 2 cents on this subject. Now let's get to education, especially in Texas, because Texas has done two really dumb things. Actually, three. They've done three now. We're going to start with the latest one, or the one I've just started hearing about. Not giving the federal funding for the free lunch programs for over the summer. What the fuck? There are a lot of kids whose only, like, especially in like Title I schools and poor schools, where some of their only meals come from that free lunch program, their free breakfast program. And over the summer, it helps a lot of people out. And what the hell is Greg Abbott doing? You're trying to kill public education, which is 80% of your kids. You're overloading special education, which is 10 to 20% of kids within education in general, depending on where you're at. I think it's like 10%. And now we're having talks on curriculum that don't make a damn bit of sense. So you want to take food away from kids who probably need it. While I understand we're not the most expensive place to live, we're getting more expensive, just like everybody else is. The pay, unless it's not jumping up as fast as the stuff that we're paying for, and um, it's just something I don't get. So, yeah, but that is just something that why are you taking stuff away from kids? You just want to make yourself look like an asshole. And it's an election year. So you're giving someone else something. But conservatives who generally is supposed to be religious people and should be giving stuff. This is why people don't like churches and the hypocrisy that the Republicans show. We're the religious people, but we're going to be so stingy with our money that it's not funny unless it looks really good in public. And this doesn't, by the way. Next part of this. Let's go on the actual curriculum. This is also going on the hypocrisy of the conservative Christian, right? I am conservative. I'm Christian. I have those values. I don't shove them down people's throats. The only close to ruling type thing people would hear from me in that is that what's it called? That I use the golden rule a lot. It's what I believe in. Treat me like you want to be treated. So if you treat me like an ass, I'm gonna treat you like an ass. If you treat me nice, I'm gonna be nice to you. You show me respect, I'm gonna show respect to you. That's just how I live. But the moment you cross those lines, and sometimes I give some grace on this, especially if you don't know me, because I'm a smart ass. And I can be a cold hearted bastard and I can give two shits. And I will go for the throat and I will try and make you cry. But I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to deal with. No, I'm not dealing with you on that level. I don't get why. And and we'll go, that there's a separation of church and state. And here's what I mean. The separation of church and state is implied in that the fact that the U.S. as a government, while it was funded with Christian values, yes, they were Christians that led American Revolution, and that's what a lot of the country was founded on was Christian, Catholic, and all these values. Okay, we can agree with that. That's fine, but it's not implicitly said in the government because we don't have a nationally recon just like we don't have a nationally recognized language, we don't have a nationally recognized religion. We're not Spain where it's Catholic. We're not England where it's the Church of England. We're not Italy where it's Catholic or all these other places. We're not Iran or Iraq where it's their version of Islam. That's just the facts of the matter. That's why we say there's a separation of church and state. We don't have an official church that is attached to the government of the United States. It's also why there's not a lot of government funding to schools that decide that they're going to be a religious setting, like a Catholic school. And that's why most of those are private schools. Even the colleges are private schools. They're not publicly funded schools. So, okay. So, you forcing people to use certain stories so you can justify the morality of what you're trying to preach. Fine. Morality is not my responsibility as a teacher. Let me say it again. My responsibility as a teacher is not to teach morality. I may say something in my opinion was unjust or not moral. And as long as I preface that in the conversation we're having, and if the kids are up to that conversation we're having, then that's great. But to in early education, when kids don't, let's be honest, they don't always fully grasp the concepts of religion because it's an abstract thought and your mind doesn't start going to the abstract and trying to actually figure out what people are talking about when it comes to religion or it comes to everything else that is not concrete in thought. It's not just black and white. It's the reason that we can get by with the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, the Santa Claus stories, because they're abstract enough, but we make them believable enough for kids so they can kind of enjoy it. The plays and the themes that we talk about, especially with religious context, are not for younger kids a lot of times. So the fact that we as a state are now saying in 2026, and I get you want whatever cover this gets you, but it doesn't give you the most it doesn't get you what you want at the end. Because that's not my responsibility as a teacher. You want us to teach morality, then let's do it when they're in high school and they can start having the discussion about morality and ethics and all that. That's why you have a class like ethics in college and not in high school or in a general education class. It's a class that you got to go pay for and go to and actually have those discussions. That's fine. Uh, but we shouldn't be using biblical story. Now, if you want to use a biblical story, fine. If we can compare it to other stories too, mythological stories, and at an appropriate age level, then fine. That I get. But want to take out all the stuff that we've been using for years and even new stuff, and then you also want to ban books and stuff, which is not the greatest thing in the world. It's dumb because you want a what we want to develop well-rounded people. Well-rounded people don't just come from one perspective, and that's what we're getting into. We're trying to make people come from one or two perspectives instead of having them actually be well-rounded. It comes off as you really just want idiots. All right. The second part of this, which is actually the one that's more concerning to me, is the fact that they've changed the social studies teach to where it's a timeline all the way through. The way I understand it is that they're going to start at the beginning of time, which in all honesty, you don't get now until high school where you take a year of world history. All right. I want you to think about this. We introduce the world when they're in elementary school. We introduce states, we introduce the government, we introduce some civics lessons when they're in elementary school right now. But we're not going to do that. No. We're just going to start from the beginning of time and then wander on up. Whoever is coming up with these seats are not thinking about what kids can actually handle and the abstract thoughts that they need. And social studies, in a lot of ways, is where you teach the principles of social studies in English, or where you teach the principles of what a moral thought is, of what some cultures think a moral thought is, of what the culture you're trying to get your kids ingrained into. Because I remember social studies, like, it was always light. Oh, we kind of went over everything in elementary school, but it was like dates. It was the first time you hear about it. Then you got to middle school, and then we got a little bit more in depth. Okay. So now we go visit the world in geography. The first of two times we're going to hit world geography in Texas education, at least right now. And then we hit just Texas history, which goes into U.S. history. Okay. Makes sense. But let's look at this as a whole right now. It is not the people who need to be in this conversation are not being listened to. The people who actually went to school, are in education, and understand the pedagogy. And if that's a big word for you, you don't understand. That's actually the theories that go into teaching. So all your teachers in the state of Texas, if your teacher is certified, to be fully certified, I gotta take two tests. I gotta take whatever my content area is, and I gotta take the PPR, which is a professional pedagogy and something test. All right. Pedagogy is talking about theories of teaching. That's all that test is. They want to know that I understand what the theories of teaching are so I can be in the classroom and teach. And that's where a lot of people think the educators aren't educated. I had classes in college just for lesson planning, for discipline, for pedagogy, for the core contents I was going to teach. And all of it was theory based. But you're going to tell me that that all these people who have never gone through these classes, because just like a lot of things, all educators, whether it's kinesiology like me, I take pedagogy classes. A math teacher, an elementary teacher, an English teacher that did it the traditional way, we all had to go through pedagogy class. And the ones who are getting the alternate certification, I think they got to go through some pedagogy class too, because they still got to take the PPR and your content. And so if y'all don't know what alt cert is, that means somebody went and got a degree, any bachelor's degree, and then they decided to become a teacher. Texas, you can do an alternate certification program, which is I don't know, like a year or so, where I guess they shove down all the pedagogy stuff that you didn't learn to get an education. The other thing that these people kind of miss, or that they get light versions of, is the fact that I had three different, actually in my whole career, I have four different times where I had to go in different increments and get hours at a school with students in the classroom. And then take at least one time where I had to do lesson or two lessons. And then when you do student teaching, you get to class for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how y'all set up and just what you do with it. So that in itself, that's how you did, that's how education is brought along. Just like doctors have internships and they have all this stuff that they gotta do, educators gotta do it too. So I spent a full semester going to school almost every day that I was paying for, I wasn't getting paid for, so I could become a teacher my last semester of college. Like, that's just what happens. But we have people who haven't gone through that who are trying to tell everybody how education's supposed to be run. Because state of Texas government wants to run it like a business. And that's why they're taking over districts if they say are performing poorly. But it's not the whole district, it's just certain schools in certain areas. And we're looking for growth. Let me back up. Well, here's the thing. We're not actually looking for pass fail. We're looking for growth. But the funny thing is as a teacher on the STAR test, I don't know what the passing score was supposed to be this year. I don't. I don't know what my kids got. I don't like. I left my school, and I'm not gonna know what my kids got on the STAR test. What you think that I will not know next year or this year, like how my kids did, and that's a messed up thing. That's the thing I don't think a lot of people get, is that this is just all messed up. So when the new STAR test comes around and they're doing it multiple times a year, and it's gonna be ridiculous because of stuff that the state has done, Y'all kids are gonna get tested more, but well, nobody actually cares. All right. So with all this said, we're gonna get in the last one because there was a viral video going on TikTok and it probably hit more teachers' communities and some parents. And so I'm gonna go off on this for a second and then we'll be done for today with the Jackass podcast. This is Coach Lindsay. There was a parent who came because it's summertime, came on and told people that they could have an IEP meeting during the summer. And then went on to say in the next video, because she got negative responses, went on to say, hey, you're a customer service for the parent. I'm going to break this down for you. First, if you don't know an IEP meeting, it's an individual education plan for a student that has needs in special education. What can happen is a range of, on the low end, just need certain classroom accommodations, accommodations on work. What they really need is specially designed instruction for that student. That is the main criteria to be in special education. Do they need a teacher to put in extra time to give them specific instruction to help them with whatever their need is that got them into special education? It could be medical, it could be educational, and the educational stuff falls under, we'll say, 4 areas, okay? We'll say 4 areas. One is behavior. They can't control themselves. They really have ADHD. It affect the behavior that affects their actual needs in education. Okay. So we'll say behavior. Then we'll say the actual learning, medical that affects their education. And then we'll say speech, because speech is its own thing. Okay. But it affects their education. They need specially designed instruction and they need time out of the day for the teacher to actually time out day in planning for a teacher to have something specially designed for them for a certain amount of time per week. Right. So that's the breakdown of the 4. An IEP is a plan that takes some time to develop. Now, I've been in special education. This will be my 9th year, going into my 9th year. I've probably written 200 plus IEPs. There are some things where you can cut and paste, and every kid's going to have this conversation, but we have to talk about it. So the majority of the kids that I've dealt with have been in one or two areas. They either have a disability in math or they have a disability in English. All right. And I'm saying English because English is going to include reading and writing, and in some ways, communication. All right. So let me go down the list. Math, you can have problem math calculation, math problem solving. I think there might be one more, but those are the 2 big ones. All right. So that's math. 2 big ones. All right. English, reading comprehension, writing comprehension. Um, no, I'm missing a couple in my head, but those are 2 of the biggest ones. Reading fluency, basic reading skills. Dyslexia has now come into their program in certain districts where they'll take kid out for dyslexia. Then you have listening comprehension and oral expression are some of the bigger ones. Then you have speech, and then you have the behavior ones, which are like ADHD, an emotional disability where they can't control their emotions, or autism falls under all of those. Okay. So here's the thing that nobody gets as a teacher, and I'm gonna talk about on middle school level because I've done middle school and I've done high school. I'm about to do high school again. As a teacher, I'm gonna go say I'm the kid's case manager. Say I have Johnny, and Johnny has reading comprehension, basic reading, and math problem solving. All right. So about a month before, say we're in the middle of the school year. All right. Because I hate doing them at the beginning because I don't know the kid. But we're going to say middle of the school year. So I'm going to go to Johnny's teachers, his math teacher, all his teachers. I'm going to find out how he's doing functionally. Does he function in the class? Does he follow the rule? Is he nice? Does he have a good person? Not a good person. Eh, What functionally does he do? Is he not turning in work, stuff like that. That's what I want to know function. Behaviorally, how's he doing? So stuff that'll get him written up. Is he following class rules? Is he respectful? Is he up and about and stuff like that? Stuff that I can actually write a goal on. Then I'm gonna go to all this. I'm gonna go to a specific teacher where the goals are really affected. Say it's like reading comprehension is what I said. So I'm gonna go to the English teacher and we're gonna go talk about reading comprehension with him. How's he doing on this? And maybe we had a specific goal. Maybe we said common one is use textual evidence to find use textual evidence to find new um, new words definition. All right. Okay. That's a skill that you need. New word. Can I find contextual evidence of what I need? Okay. All right, that sounds cool. So you go through it with the teacher. You find out through out whatever time he's been in the classroom. How's he doing on that goal? They've been collecting data by this time, and then and then you find are there some new weaknesses? Are they getting better at it? Is something else showing up? Maybe it's an inferencing, and they can't find a theme. Or something like that. And then I go talk to the math teacher and see how they're doing on specific types of problem solving or whatever the goal is. And we have these conversations. And I give them, we've had data sheets because we'll say this is mid year. So we've tracked them for 1 or 2 grading periods throughout the whole grading period. So we have the data. We can find it on tests. We can find it on individual work that they did and stuff like that. And in times where they have individually been given their SDI. All right. So I want you to think about this. We had this while I said that we could do this over summer, but I got teachers and a case manager saying doing all this stuff during the school year. Now, the thing about doing it over summer that's bad is that your student's teacher's not on contract. I am on contract from the first day of school to the last day of school or for about a week before the first day of school. Like my contract time this year starts on the 3rd of August. And in whatever the last day of school is next year for the new school district I'm gonna be in. I think it's like May 28th or something. I don't know. All right. So that being said, that's what we're gonna do. So when you get to summer and now the teachers are out, they don't have data because some districts gets deleted or because you're taking them off. I might not have access to all the data. They've been taken on my roster, whatever. But now we do it during the summer. Now you just got a district personnel that doesn't know your child, just knows what they're going to read on the paperwork, but doesn't actually have interactions with your child. But that's fine for you. That's not in the best interest of the student. So this mom saying all this because she wants to be spoiled. If it's not in the best interest of the student, we shouldn't be having an IEP during the summer. Now, I'm going to go off on my tangent about my job is not to serve the parent. My job is not a true customer service job. I've run customer service job for 20 years. I know how to do customer service. I have those skills. I can bullshit you. I can do all that nice stuff. I can make you feel special. I can get you talk to me. I can do all that stuff in a customer service setting. I've done it for 20, 25 years. I'm fine with that. What I'm not cool with is the ego some parents have to think I'm there for them. I'm not there for you. Me and you should be a team because we're there for the best interests of your student, but I'm not there for you directly. Like God's honest truth, I'm not. And I want you to understand this. It is not a true customer service. Because you inadvertently pay my bills through taxes, but you're not paying my bills like you're paying me for the service. If I am a tutor for your child, that's a different story. And you're paying me directly. If I'm a private teacher for your child, that's a different story. The public educator, no, that is not the same story. We are not on that. The story is that you and me are partners in this for what's in the best interest of your student. I'm there to teach your student so they can be a better member of society and have some basic knowledge so they can be productive in the society that we have. Now, here's the thing. Everybody bitches about education, teachers ain't doing shit. There are two specific roles. My job as a teacher is to give you the factual information or the information I've been given to give you. So, whatever the state I live in says you have this basic knowledge to be a productive member of society. Okay, that's my job. My job is to give you the information. Here's the thing about information. If I don't want that information, I am not going to learn that information. So, as a learner, your student's job, your child's job, is to come in and be willing to learn and wanting the knowledge. Because that is the most important thing. Because whatever your kids want to learn, they're going to learn. Don't get this twisted. Whatever people want to learn, they're going to learn. It is not just straight, oh, well, it's all the teacher's fault. No, the kids got to want to learn. The kid has to want to come and want to learn. And if it's a struggle, they're going to have to fight to learn because that's part of life in general. So I don't know what you want me to say. So let's wrap this up real quick. Today I complained. Today I brought in my opinion about trans. How I don't care what you do in your bedroom, and I think that sports should be basically biologically compatible to your birth gender, whatever it is, because there are unfair advantages for men versus women. Period. Secondly, that the state of Texas is trying to get rid of the state of Texas is being hypocritical in what they're saying they want to push and their action, especially with free food and stuff like that for some kids. And pushing religious context is not a good thing if you're going to be hypocritical about it. And also, the reason that we have separation of church and state is because we don't have an official church for the U.S. government. That's where the separation of church and state comes in. Second part is that you need to understand that the way things are changing is not being influenced by teachers because nobody wants to, basically, nobody wants to listen to teachers because everybody thinks teaching's an easy job. Come do it, please. And third, that doing an IEP during the summer is dumb because your kids' teachers would not be involved. And the last part of that is my job as a teacher is not to serve the parent. It is to educate your student. Y'all have a good one. This is Jackass Podcast. Peace.